First of all, I wanted to thank you for meeting with us.
Thank you.
It was actually a privilege to watch your film. I was very moved. I really enjoyed it. It's the first time I'm doing this with a Zoom call, so it's a bit.
Good. Don't worry.
Okay, because usually it's a bit more easy to get into conversation if you're sitting actually next to somebody.
Of course.
Anyway, I really enjoyed the film. Moon 66 Questions is competing at this year's Encounter section at the Berlinale, and I've heard that you are no stranger to this festival.
No, I've been there several times. I was there in 2015 at Script Station in their talents platform with my short film script called Fox back then, 2015. Then I was back in 2017 with Hiwa competing in the short film competition. And then I was back in 2019 where I was in Script Station with a feature project I was writing back then. So many years in Berlin.
Yeah. The feature production was a different one. It was not for...
Yeah, it was a different one. Mm-hmm. As I was waiting for funding for this one, I was writing another one.
Yeah, because in the credits of Moon 66 Questions, there's quite a lot of script stations also mentioned. Torino, I think, Toronto Film Festival, and Sundance, I remember.
Yes, I've been to many labs. The first one was MFI, actually, Mediterranean Film Workshop, which takes place in 2 sessions, both in Greece. Then after that, I was in Torino Film Lab. Then after that, I was in Toronto Talent Lab. And then after that, I was in Sundance Mediterranean Screenwriting Workshop. So yes, too much tutoring and many script doctors. And also, of course, I was in the Pop-On Film Residency in Bratislava. I was the first resident there, where I had the chance to work with 4 separate tutors in the duration of 4 months. So they were coming and going.
Wow, that's a lot of input. Do you think it's integral for your work to have so many other people advise you?
Yeah, look, you know, any advice is always helpful, both those you want to get rid of and those who you think of keeping, because it's a very nice and interesting procedure to see how people read what you have in your mind for very long. And especially people from the industry that are able to visualize the future version of any script. So because I'm a person that I have a very fixed vision of what I'm going to do, for me opinion is no danger, because I know, you know, in the first instance if I will keep it or not. But it's always helpful to have an interesting conversation about the script as a construct.
Yeah, that sounds like, also it sounds like you could take what you felt was beneficial for your work and then leave out what wasn't. Mm-hmm. So I guess in that sense it's helpful to have different opinions as well. So how was the process then from developing the script to actually getting it made into a film?
Yes, the process it was very hard. Because unfortunately, I'm a filmmaker in Greece, at least at the moment. And it's a very tough thing to do because there is no real industry and the country does not really care. So this means a lot of delays, very important delays for funding. And if delays for funding are there, then there's a whole delay for the whole production. So it was hard for us. It was very hard. We had very small time for pre-production. So we entered, you know, like very intensely. And yes, I was very happy to shoot it in 2019 because, you know, after that, the pandemic was on, so it would be impossible to shoot. So I'm fine. I don't nag. It was okay.
Yes, I can imagine. It doesn't really get easier from pandemic point onwards. What I like I told you, I really enjoyed the film, and what I think made it so powerful were the performances, both by Sofia Kokali and Lazaros. I was wondering about the character development. Did you establish the character together with them? Was the input from the actors as well? Because it felt so genuine, what was seen on screen.
Thank you. The fact is that I know very well the real people behind these characters that I have created. So they're inspired by people I know very, very well. This means that I didn't have to imagine or construct a fictitious character. I was based on what I knew from the real people. And I tried to give this information to my actors. And after that, of course, because they're both amazing, we try to add a little details here and there, and a lot of backstory. We created a lot of backstory in order, because it's very interesting. We were trying to make a film about the gap of the relationship, so something that is not there. And in order to make a film about something that it's not there, you have to really work on what happened before in order for the gap to exist. And this is where backstory comes. So I tried to create a really solid story for the father as well as the daughter. And yes, and then it was all on their hands. Like actually, yes, it was a very free thing. I put the emotions in their hearts and they acted.
And you did a very great job. Yeah. And I also read that you worked independently with actors and they didn't rehearse before meeting on set?
Yes. This is something that I always do. I try not to do it when I have a lot of people in a scene because the dynamics are different. But when it is a couple, like here, I mean a pair, as well as when it's only one person scene, I never rehearse because I really aim for the momentum. And the fact that we wanted to show that these people didn't know each other, there was this distance. I thought that by really giving them real distance and letting them meet on set, it would really evoke the emptiness of the relationship. It wouldn't be fake. It would really be that these people met then. And this actually had a lot of interest for me because the way we had scheduled our shootings, it's that we entered the house towards the end, and entering the house towards the end in our schedule meant that they had come close enough, so we had to go back then to the distance. And yes, it was interesting, but yes, I don't rehearse to reply to your question.
It's incredible also the moments where Artemis is alone, for instance in the prosthetics store, where she's both helpful with the wheelchair, but at the same time there's this child that's coming through with the prosthetic eye.
Yes.
Was that the goal, to have a dichotomy between being mature and being immature?
For sure, I really enjoy this comment because it's a very pivotal characteristic of the Artemis personality, the protagonist's name, and the fact that I wanted to show the antithesis between the fact that she still feels a child. She's a young adult, like 25, 24. She still feels a child. However, she's called not only not to be a child, but to be the parent of her own parent in a way. And not even the parent, the carer, even more distant and more, disciplined. Because the parent can be a parent, but she's the carer. She's like a warrior, So I want to have this double psychology to somehow justify the outbursts that will come later on, because she has so much pressure on. Sometimes she tries to escape with role playing or playing alone, like here, let's say in the prosthetic shop. Some other times she cannot escape like that, so she, it's okay. But yes, for sure, I wanted to show how hard it is for her, and it's even harder because she has the child soul. You know what I mean? It becomes even harder. The whole coming of age becomes even more violent by having this double psychology inside her.
Yeah, and also there's some powerful images that I also felt symbolic of that relationship. For instance, the first time the physical therapist is there and the whole family and the extended family just watches, and this one child eats, and they're all watching her with this expectation upon her. And then the first time that she's meant to hold her father, it's literally him putting his whole weight on her shoulders. Was
Yes.
that also an intentional image?
Of course, because I think this is a scene that might be very hard to watch because it's really like he's really suffering. It's very sad for me to watch my actor taking so long to make one movement, but this is a disease, unfortunately. And after that, I thought that it would be very indicative of the relationship they have, how and the relationship they will develop this particular moment, because they are close, but they are not close in terms of emotions yet, but they are close physically. And you can see that gradually it will become one, like that they will somehow fill in the gap emotionally as well.
And speaking of symbolism, there are quite a bunch of different narrational elements. One of this is Artemis kind of chronicling the moon cycle in her diary. And this is also where the title comes in. I was wondering about the number 66. What was the relevance here?
It's a personal thing.
Sorry.
Nothing important.
Because I was thinking about, because numerology is also what, is part of, if you think about alternative ways of finding belief system, you think of the tarot cards that are shown and the moon phases. And so I was thinking maybe there's some number, because numerology, I could imagine.
As a person, as a filmmaker, I'm really into all of these things. I love them. I love numerology. I know very little of it, so I wouldn't put it in the film.
Okay, not a problem. Speaking of numbers, also at the VHS tapes, there's obviously the dates. I was wondering, is it true that your starting into filmmaking came from being gifted a camcorder at a young age?
Yes. Basically, I was not gifted. I asked for it very intensely, which is interesting. And through psychoanalysis, I tried to understand why, when I was 10, I asked for a video camera. And I was wondering why? Because all kids, have other toys. And it's very important. The fact that my father, my parents were together until I was 2 years old, and then they broke up. And the most vivid image of my father is him with a VHS camera shooting the house. So I thought that after they broke up, oh, sorry, my dog. After they broke up, because I'm an only child, I think what gave me strength was this image of my father then. So in order for me to make myself feel safer, I wanted to become this guy with the camera, you know what I mean? So I asked from him to have this gift. And this is how it all started. It was not at the same moment I decided to become a filmmaker, of course, for sure. It was just a toy for me. But it was a toy through which unconsciously I started seeing the world with a very particular way, because you have particular aspects in these cameras. So yes, somehow it fixed my look on things.
Yeah, absolutely. And also the aspect that it's kind of the father's diary. So we have her talking, reading aloud from her diary and his visual diary. It's also beautiful, exactly from the father.
I'm very happy that you also comment on this idea. This is one of my favorite ideas, because what I wanted to do is to show that although these people think they are very far apart, at the same time, film makes them together. The film tried to converge them. So she's talking over his visual diary, or there are some cuts at the editing points that really want, let's say, to connect them. So she has the magnifying glass over her palm. This comes after a shot where the father had the magnifying glass over some flowers, let's say. Very discreet and small things to connect them before they are connected in the film.
That's amazing. I really like that concept.
Thank you.
I was wondering, are the VHS tapes real camcorder footage? Okay.
We shot them, and also I have to say there is a shot with a lion roaring, and I was behind the camera.
That's great.
I was very happy and proud.
That's amazing. Let me think. Also, I saw there's this question at the moment about calling something a debut, and obviously Moon 66 Questions is your first feature film, but it's by no way your debut film, because you've been making films for 10 years, I think. I saw you started in 2011 with your short films.
This was a school project. I don't like film exercises. My first post-graduation film was in 2015, 16, something like that.
But still, it's longer than one might expect if you hear the term debut.
Yes. Yeah, it's a long discussion. It's interesting because I understand both parties. I understand both that feature film world is a very different platform. It's a very different game. The game changes here. So I understand that I'm considered to be new in this game. At the same time, I also understand the short film world that wants to be included in the feature film world and doesn't like when you cancel the past of one filmmaker and the shorts. So I understand both sides in a way, to be honest.
And so do you think, would you say that making a feature film is like an extension of your knowledge of short films, or how would you describe the process of changing the form, the length, and obviously there's a budget difference as well?
For me, it was a very different experience because when I was shooting my short films, I was really, really free. And because the scale was smaller, the days were smaller, the budget was smaller, everything was smaller, this gave much more freedom. Now with the feature, it felt like a very, very hard film school. Like I learned, now I learned the job. Before I was the artist. Now I felt that there's an elevation, and you become the artist combined with another entity. I don't know how to call it. I don't want to call it the businessman, but there is an oomph. There is an extra oomph with the feature film, for sure.
Another change is, especially now during the pandemic, is that many studios release their films online. What is your take on this move? Do you think it helps independent films, for instance, get a better accessibility to people?
To be honest, for me, the film belongs to the cinema theater. I'm very absolute on that. I mean, there are so many people working behind the film for it to be shown in the cinema theater for a particular reason, because the experience of watching a film in a cinema by itself is magical, even if the film is not that good. The whole setup, it's for me, it's the most magical thing in the world. So I don't think that filmmakers are helped. I think that the rest are helped. Sales, producers, the industry, not the artist. The industry is helped because, of course, I understand that money has to move around, for sure. They cannot just hold their films and wait for the cinemas to open. But I can't wait for all this to end, to be honest, and start our life again and watch our films the way they're supposed to be watched.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for speaking with me.
Thank you. I thank you.